welcome to the hyperfixation corner. Okay, there we go. That's better. I had a different video recorded and I could not bring myself to upload it. It was garbage. I made it right after the inauguration, and when I was doing the editing, I didn't look good, I didn't sound good, and just everything that was happening with the inauguration really influenced my mood, and it was a bad video that did not make any sense. I was rambling on about 12 different things, none of which were important or really made sense, honestly, and I just could not bring myself to upload that because that's not the move, you know? And I thought I wasn't gonna have a video for this week. I'm not gonna lie. I was already gonna flake on my January, or twice a month in January. I was already gonna flake on it, but classic 4:30 in the morning hyperfixation corner fashion, I was thinking. And now we're back. We're back for part 2. I'm gonna try again, spur of the moment, record a new video. This has nothing to do with the last video. I want to talk about something that Donald Trump and I have in common. Okay, also, before we get started, if you're going to ask what I'm working on, I'm making a skirt. This is the waistband. I'm very proud of it. And then I'm making this part, and there's gonna be more parts, and it's gonna look good, and you guys are gonna be really proud of me. Look, it's a whole skirt. I've been making scarves and blankets and pillowcases for so long, but this is a whole item of clothing. Anyways, looking at me, you'd think this bitch has 0 things in common with Donald Trump, and 1, I thank you for that. You're right, I have 0 things in common with Donald Trump. And 2, you're wrong. We both like the same movie. Now, I have seen from a couple various sources, and then I've seen like a clip of it on the internet that I will try and find and put for you here now. Donald Trump being asked and saying that his favorite movie is Citizen Kane. And I love that movie. As a film major, I love it. It's one of my favorite, it isn't my favorite movie, but it is one of my favorite movies. And it did not surprise me at all, actually, to find out that Donald Trump's favorite movie was Citizen Kane. It only just confirmed for me how dumb he is. You see, because Citizen Kane is one of my favorite movies for the exact opposite reason that it is probably Donald Trump's favorite movie. Now, if you have not seen Citizen Kane is a movie that came out in 1941. It's in old black and white. They do talk, it's not a silent film, don't worry. If you've never seen Citizen Kane, it is about citizen Charles Foster Kane, the richest man in the city. And it chronicles his life from his start as a poor young boy being sold by his family because they're so poor and kind of awful. They sell him, so that's not great. It follows his rise through life and how he tries to fill the emptiness of his parents not loving him and, selling him by filling that hole with things and money. He clearly sees himself as the hero of his own story, but everyone around him is deeply aware that this is an awful person. He very quickly descends into doing just about anything for money. He becomes very obsessed with materialistic things. He's very sexist. He hits his wife. I think it's implied that he rapes her, or maybe he just straight up rapes her. I can't remember. He is a cruel and awful man. He disguises it all as generosity because he has so much money, but he is cruel. he is vapid, he is materialistic, and he is narcissistic and self-obsessed. He is exactly like Donald Trump, and it follows his life straight into his death, where he dies alone with no one that he loves, no one who cares about him. Everyone is happy, kind of, that he's dead. It's kind of like Scrooge during that scene when he's dreaming, and he's dreaming about his funeral, and he's like, yay, Scrooge is dead. It's kind of like that. No one's sad this man is dead, because again, he's vapid and awful and misogynistic, and he turns on everybody, and he was never a good friend to any of them. He just kept them around because of his money, and none of them are there when he dies, and none of them care when he dies. In fact, they celebrate because he dies surrounded by his own hoarded wealth, eating tons and tons of food, which, given the time period and the fact that it was, the Depression and the war and all that sort of stuff, it was him constantly eating food and being surrounded by food was just another symbol of greed and materialism. He wasn't eating the food or having the food because he needed it. He was eating the food because he didn't want other people to have it. And he died with this big, long table of food that no one else is gonna eat at the height of the Great, or maybe not the height of the Great Depression, but like during the Depression, right during the war, right after the war, like in that era. Truly a terrible man. And the movie is an indictment of that. It is a full and strong condemnation of his actions, of materialism, of greed. It shows him and portrays him in the worst possible light. Citizen Kane, Charles Foster Kane, is the villain of his own movie. He is the protagonist, but he is the villain. So why is it Donald Trump's favorite movie? If it is a critique of basically everything he is, because let's be honest, between you and I, we can totally see why Donald Trump sees himself in this person, right? So if this movie is an indictment of everything he is and everything he loves, and probably a roadmap of what his life is going to look like. He will die alone, surrounded by no one who loves him or cares about him, because I very highly doubt anybody loves and cares about him right now. Like, in a true love sense, because there are definitely people who are like cult-like obsessed with him. Why does he like it? What does he see in this movie? He sees himself, and he sees himself just as Foster Kane does, or Charles Foster Kane does. He sees himself as the hero. He sees Citizen Kane as I believe he put it, a very good man, or something along those lines. He does not understand that this movie is an indictment of Charles Kane. He does not understand that this movie is not an endorsement of that lifestyle or an endorsement of materialism. It is anti-materialism, it is anti-greed, but he doesn't understand that. All he sees is a man who was hurt getting the things he deserves, i.e., wealth, power, fame, women, money, whatever he wants, just because he had a hard life, just because his dad didn't love him or whatever. He thinks, he as in Charles Kane, but he also as in Donald Trump, thinks that Charles Kane therefore deserves to do anything he wants. Also, he thinks that he is inherently better than everyone else. I truly, honestly, if I were Donald Trump myself, could not have picked a better favorite movie. I was, frankly, delighted to find out that this was Donald Trump's favorite movie, because it means that he's a film person, but the worst kind of film person. Like, he's the kind of film bro that I went to film school to zap with lasers. zap them with my lesbian lasers and turn them into lesbians. And that's what happens. If you're a man and you've been to film school and you're around me, you become a lesbian. You know what? This is, I promise you, somehow more coherent than the video that I actually made for this week. It's just so perfect that it's his favorite movie, because it's just, it being his favorite movie and it being what it is such a perfect showcase of how stupid he is. It confirms everything that we have ever thought about him. If you have not seen this movie, I highly encourage you to go see it, because